It's a very cold morning, and heading over to a friend of mine's house, who unfortunately lives about 2.5 hours away. We're going to work on my 914, a bunch of little projects that I want to try and get started on. But we got a really cool setup, a really cool car. Take a look at that. Go for a drive. It'll be a fun day. And I'm really cold, so I'm gonna put my face warmer back on and get back to driving. Alright. So today we're going to visit the Red Barn, which is a friend of mine's shop where he has all of the cool fabrication tools. But he has some really fun projects, such as this amazing 914, which has simply some of the best quality work and engineering done to a 914 that I've ever seen. Not to mention a 500 horsepower LS3. Chris is going to help me design and make a removable firewall for the rear trunk to cover a nasty hole I've had for 5 years. And today we're going to show you the step-by-step process of how we made those pieces. If you're into learning the creative process, which makes high-end custom cars, stay tuned.
What it's going to do, so you know, is it's going to first, I set it up with what's called the drill operation. So it's going to first punch all the spots for the fasteners so they're nice and perfectly spaced first, and then it stops, and then I tell it, okay, now cut the rest of the pattern. So the first thing it does is drill holes. Efficient use of material.
Yeah. The tool that Chris is using now is a sheet metal scribe with preset marks for various dimensions, letting you make quick line references. It's a very simple, but it's an awesome tool.
So we're going to do we're going to go to 90 on this, right? So we're going to put the brake in the sheet, not bend this over 90.
Yes, that's what we talked about, yes.
Oh, you know what? This is a little bit much for my little bend. If you're talking about how much you want to take off, if you put a chamfer on the material that approximates the amount that you want to take off, you now have a marked line without having to try to measure it or scribe it. Now granted, it's not as, but for quickie stuff like this, it's super easy. You can square to the randomly built, front console. Talking about a radius. There's going to be a hard break. It's not going to be sharp, but it'll be a break, right? There's a visual change of plane at the 1 inch up.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a visual change of plane here, but you have to pick where you want that stamping to be relative to the one and the, you know, the face of that starts to curve, let's just say, at approximately 7 3/4.
I think putting it right in the middle from the break is a good idea.
So you want it between 1 and 7 3/4.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that Chris and I discussed was stamping the sheets, but we didn't really have appropriate stamps, and so we kind of shelved this for later.
Is that it?
I think
Is that about where you want it?
Yeah.
It's a little bit stiff. We can always over bend it. We can bend it. I'd rather bend it twice than try to unbend it. Okay. Roll. All right, so you're going to hold this so that that surface is parallel with this surface, and you're going to watch this, and this is going to end up being coincidental with that. Okay, ready?
Okay.
And so I'm just going to come up until I'm going to bend past, and I'm going to count for spring back. Then I'm going to come back and test.
Okay, keep going.
No, I'm looking at it from here, this side. I want to see that plane, right? So I'm a little under. Now I'm a teeny bit over, which is probably okay.
Check it with this.
Well, we know we're going to be over. No, it's wrong. Actually, it's not enough.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Now you've got this. We have to. Oh no, it's fine.
No, it didn't move. And I'm checking. That's weird. Are you sure? I want this in the crotch of that. Now this is different because normally, right,
Yeah.
it's this thing. But what I'm checking is this angle.
I don't think you're.
I'm not in the right place, but I think I actually like that. Well, no, I don't like that better. No, that's interesting. This is in the same spot. Oh no, you know why? This is what happens when you get fancy. Because this is not being forced, this bend is not being forced to happen where the hard break is, because it's unfold. Remember, because this is moved away from that point. That's where we're getting an unpredictable amount of spring back. Because normally it's like you bend it to here, but this is like I bend it and I'm really just sort of playing with that section. So that's why it's being weird. It's on the same mark, but the bend actually occurred way back here, the hard part of the bend. So we're gonna have to play with it is what we're gonna have to do.
Okay.
Because it's not predictable because we broke the, yeah, you can see it's sort of got another, yeah, so this is not great. Let's just go with this for a second.
Let's look at it.
Well, that's weird. It actually
Broke it in two different spots.
Well, and we can fix that.
That's fine.
Well, no, I mean, unless you like that. You know, it's interesting. That just happens to be about the same size as all these other bumps.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like it, we'll claim that's what we did on purpose. Right? And now what we can do is come back and put the hard break here. Or no, let's check this angle. Maybe we're close. Cool. Yeah, see, that's actually got to go farther. Right? If you look at this.
Yeah, it's gotta go more.
But what we can do is we can come back and force the hard break right there. And that actually, I'm okay with that. That kind of looks purposeful.
Yeah.
But you can see how much something, just another element of dimension, it changes the way the thing looks like by a ton.
Yeah.
Okay, and this also gives us, well, no, because really you want it there. That's where it's sitting. So we're shy. Oh, that's interesting.
Got a couple degrees.
Yeah, but what I'm more worried about is where the panel sits.
Well,
Because
because
I
I
think
think it's not going to sit there. It's going to sit here. That's where it's going to sit.
No, but that can't be where it sits. It's not low enough. Look. You don't have enough brace up. You're not even going to get to the fasteners. It's got to sit like there.
Okay.
So we put that bend. That bend came in too low. We really want this to be the bend.
Interesting.
Yep. So we're gonna do. So one of the advantages of having a magnetic brake is it's also a stamper. So you'll notice what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have this thing climb up that too low bend a little bit, and this might take a couple of steps because it doesn't like to do it all at once. It unbends.
What's the strength of those magnets?
You know, I don't know. I think it's is it 3 tons or 2 tons or something? It's a lot.
Of magnetic
You don't want to
force?
get your finger in there. Just say that. So now I'm going back farther.
I think if we met that somewhere in the middle.
Well, so here's what we're up against. If you were to dress this, right, you're not ever going to get rid of that because it's been stretched, right? But we can get rid of lots of it. And like I say, this is the whole idea of practices. Because that's where that secondary bend started to get is really where you wanted.
I think a little bit lower than that.
Yeah.
Like right in the middle of the two.
Yeah, so you could get that to go away with some sanding and maybe a little bit of hammer and dolly, but you think, let's just check.
All right, don't worry about that.
You know this is a little... So that first step, that just sets the brake, and then when you pull the lever, it trips a switch when it's like, okay, and they call it clamping force, and then it's bending force.
Got it.
That's what that is, you hear. And then that button I keep pushing is the release. It's not wonky at all. Yeah, so it's got to get, and see that sets where we want that second bend. And so it's got to be maybe twice that.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe a little more. Looks nice.
Yes. Your bend should be. Where? You know what I mean? Like this. Like they die these off,
Yeah.
right? And it just. Don't look at that. It locks in now.
That's nice.
And then what'll really locate it is, obviously that. But there. Now, this has got to get trimmed right away because this isn't already, it's not contacting it, but it's gonna. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the other thing we can do is we can lessen the bend just a little bit because that's just a little low.
yeah, you're right. I'm going to open up the gap a teeny bit. Put this back where its bend line was. do a lock clamp and then use one of these
Physically push it down a little bit.
as a, well, because how many times
Yeah.
have you tried to unbend something and you do this and you get you're
Just
gonna
the
bend
edges.
here. So I'm not going to unbend the panel. I'm going to use this as the right.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not. This is a big piece of metal when it comes to like you got to put some force into this crap.
Yeah.
And it's like, but what's nice is you can actually literally just unbend the bend, not bend the panel. It's all an inexact science right here. And then this is you gotta when you're fitting this stuff, make sure you're not letting one, you're not letting one side.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm trying to get this to slide down until it contacts the top of the rail as the locator. And then I think that's it.
I think that's it too.
Yeah.
We're out of the way of that for the most part.
Well, no, you're still. But the thing is, this is going to get. I would trim this way back
Yeah.
to here because the other panel that goes on.
Could we raise that portion?
Well, what I was gonna suggest is that we do some fancy crap, and now you don't have any of the riveted on stuff.
Nope.
But what you do have, see, I'm always trying to find like design cues that I can say that's what I'm trying to copy. But what you could do, what I would do is I would want to make that. I would want to make a recess for that thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, what can we claim we're copying? Well, these guys, right? So what we could make is a cup that maybe has a ring on it, and that ring could be fastened on there with fasteners, right? Unless there's something about that look that you don't want to copy, because you could. Well, here. Oh, you know what? I know. You could do something like this.
Yeah.
Right. So this is an intake. This is just a 4-inch intake plastic. I think it costs $7.95 on Summit. And you can put that in the panel.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about stuff like this, now this is a little plain, but it's clearly like a piece. It's a factory looking-ish thing. So versus trying to, let's come up with a metal bowl and weld it around. So this, again, you have to get the angle right. And this would have to be trimmed out because it's already going to be super close to contacting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you add something unique to the shape, and on this top panel, we come out like this. Nah, too late. But anyway, so that's the kind of stuff you can figure out.
Mm-hmm.
You could do something like, well, you could, okay, worst case, I guess all I'm saying is if you made a panel that made that hole okay to look at,
Yeah.
versus trying to cut some raggedy hole, come up with something that's a trim piece. Okay, so now we know our panel, we know that's good. So re-zero X and Y. And we know we have plenty of material, so we run it. The table's a little bit low on water. That's why we're getting some of this smoke on here. It's just, it is, sorry. It doesn't really cause a problem. I'm not, putting so much heat into the panel that that's an issue. Okay, so, yep, that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way. No, I'm just gonna say, it's like, uh-oh. All right, so this at least gets us in the angle of it won't be correct because we know it's got to be tipped. But this will give us a pretty good feel for. Hold on. Yeah. How does that look? Now it's going to drop down. Does it look like it's in the right place?
Yeah, it looks perfect.
Challenge becomes, it really matters where this bend goes relative to that hole. So that's why I think it's a great idea to cut it undersized, because we're not so good at this that we can guarantee that once that break goes in, that's where that hole is going to go. And if it needs to be scooted, we got a 1/2 inch clearance around there we're going to end up going after to fix it. All right, so we said a 1 inch bend. All right, now this is not quite 90. Oh, that screw's got to go.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks nice. Just that makes a big difference.
Huge. I mean, it's finished. I don't mean finished done. I mean, it's
a finished product.
closed off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. And then
and with some cool fasteners.
some trimming and adjustments.
When you bolt it down here, you simply bolt it down and it comes from this hump, and it would force it to set flat here.
Well, that wouldn't take much work, would it?
No, you just stretch this a teeny bit.
Let's do it.
So there's jaws in here, and as you step on the pedal, the jaws grab the metal, and then you'll see they pull them together. See how it pulls together? Oh no, sorry, this is the stretcher. It's spreading them apart. You can see that little gap right there is getting bigger. So what it's actually doing is it's grabbing the material and physically causing it to pull apart. The strinker obviously does the exact other, brings them together. And yes, you can go hard enough. We won't be trying to put that much into it, but you can go hard enough with these things, it'll just tear the metal if you go overboard with it. And so this is one of those, I'm gonna do what looks like nothing at first. I'm just gonna go very lightly, and I'm gonna go across the whole panel.
And the harder you push down with your feet, the more it stretches, right?
The harder you push down, the more, the more, when you say the more it stretches, the farther apart the jaws are trying to mechanically go. It's in the way. The table's in the way. So I can't see you can see it's starting to.
Yeah.
Right? And you can see it started more down here, because again, this is all, it's not an exact science, it's all a feel thing, and then you just got to keep checking it and correcting it where you've gone too far, or where you haven't gone enough. Yeah, see, now it's starting to. All right, so let's just do a quick check and get a 5-1. You'd be surprised how this can also sneak up on you. You're like, oh, I still got to go, and all of a sudden, whoa. And what we got to do is you got to put it somewhere, like pick an edge and give yourself, a fat eighth, skinny quarter on both sides, and then follow that line across.
That's looking pretty good.
That's looking pretty good. And it's really hard to tell because this thing's forcing it away here, and this is flat. So you're chasing something that's really difficult. So for that up to this location, I shouldn't say that. If it were me, I just like symmetry, right? So this is a line of fasteners, this is a line of fasteners, and it may not work, right?
Yeah.
Like now that I see this, I think, oops, we should have figured out this dimension. We should have made sure that whatever middle and here, right? Because if you end up with, so you got a fastener here, and one here, and I doubt that they're gonna. It doesn't matter. No one's ever gonna notice that. But it's one of those things. If I had planned, version 2, right? But I think that's pretty good. I think that looks pretty freaking good.
Yeah. I agree.
And this is money. I think that's freaking awesome.
You could put it in.
Almost, not quite. See, the hole's not in the right spot. Right? It's got to go that way. But see, there's your reveal. That's what we're talking about. When you really look at the hole, it's too far that way. The center's too far that way.
Yeah.
But that's what we'll do is we'll fix that. And I actually think if you took this back, I'm going to say
pushed it
3/4 of an inch and really pushed it down. God, there's part of me that, that would really look cool too is if you cut, I wouldn't do it, but if you had this,
flattened it down
and pushed that down and had a little drop panel so that was flat and this sat down in it, that'd look cool too.
Yeah.
But even an angled dimple die look would work. But that's, again, this is the kind of stuff I think you're living a day in my life. I don't know if yours is the same way, but you're like, oh, well, now that I've, because it's like, well, what if we did? It's like, I gotta build it. For me, I need to see it physically, and then I need to look at it. Then there's part of this. It's like, yeah, nothing. That's cool. Oh yeah, stampings. That's cool too. And that's why. Why do I have 2 exhaust systems and 2 different air cleaners? Because there's days where it's like, oh yeah, budget outlaws. Not today though. Today's plain. Yeah, I think that looks really good. That looks really good.
Yeah.
It's purposeful, and I think this worked out good. This angle looks nice. That worked out great. It's not exactly the same as this, but it's close enough.
It's close enough that it doesn't matter. And it really finishes off and gives me a nice trunk.
Yeah. Well, and we got to come up with a Z-bend for that.
Yeah.
To repair that so that you have a full-blown sealed 914 trunk.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a really productive day. I can't thank Chris enough. He's just amazing with this tool. And we got a lot done. So I'll show you a recap when we get back home. But suffice it to say, it was a really great day. And now we'll get down to driving home.